Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, October 3rd, 2012. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Geeks and Jocks podcast. My name is Captain Obvious. Thank you for tuning in. This podcast will attempt to bridge the worlds of gaming and sports, so sit back and enjoy the ride. We're broadcasting from the Geeks and Jocks headquarters. My mic is live, my scotch is neat, and here we go. Today is day 18 of the NHL Lockout. Every Wednesday I will be giving you what day number we're on, as this may go on for the unforeseeable future. So we celebrate day 18 of the NHL Lockout. Today is another celebration. Today is a celebration in Major League Baseball. We saw something tonight that we have not seen in 45 years. For Miguel Cabrera, a Triple Crown winner. Last Triple Crown winner was back in 1967. The Detroit Tiger had to go in tonight. He had a 1 home run lead over the guy in second place. He had a 7-point batting average lead. He had the RBI lead by a substantial margin, so that wasn't in worries. However, the home runs and the batting average was. The home runs, he had nothing to worry about. The man in second place, Josh Hamilton with 43, did not homer for the Texas Rangers tonight, so that was safe for Miguel Cabrera to go into his game in the evening and just worry about his batting average. People think, okay, well, he had the lead in the batting average, so all he had to do was sit out the game. But he's one of those guys that is not going to sit out the game. So he did play, and as we know, he now becomes the first Triple Crown winner since 1967. First in the AL in batting average with a .330. First in home runs in the AL with 44. First in runs batted in the AL with 139. Congratulations, sir. You have done one hell of a job. Break down what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to go over the games that I've played this last week, some NHL news. We're going to go around the sporting world, go back to the MLB Playoffs there, some gaming news, talk about my future gaming, and then we'll finish off. So let's step into the games that I have played. I got to talk about this real quick. As I was finishing work, I looked at my iPhone and I noticed that there was an update, which got me excited because the update was for The Simpsons Untapped. However, Simpsons Tapped Out gave me a Halloween update that still does not allow me to play the game. It's absolutely getting ridiculous. I'm going to post a couple pictures of what I see every single time I open that app. It's phenomenal. I've now going on 17 days with that app, and I have not played 1 second. But for you folks at home, I will keep trying, because now this mission has become a major part of my life. I will play The Simpsons Untapped on the iPhone, if it's the last thing I do. Mark my words. Moving on, playing something that I actually did get a chance to play at NHL 13 GM Connected. My leagues are up and running. Everything is going well. I've actually got some W's under my belt, which makes me very happy. Still a little slow in the process. Lots of games to be played. Not a lot of time to do them. When you're a grown-ass gamer, as I've talked about before, fitting in those half-hour games can be difficult on most nights. So I do appreciate the patience from the other gentlemen in my league. I have set my team to play as PC, as a sim, in case somebody needs to play and I'm just not available, which is a nice option that GM Connected puts in. EA did something decent there. If you got somebody that's going away on vacation for 2 weeks, the league needs to go on. So you're able to assign your team so the computer can play as you would. Now, the way that happens is you actually have to upload your own strategies. So you take some time, set up your strategies, whether your players would dump the puck more, would control the puck more, would cycle more, would shoot more, how they would react on defense, if they would go into a trap mode, or if they would go into a full force attack. So it's very cool how they've set that up, and I've let everybody in the leagues know that my team is available to be played against at any time. Right now, sitting in the original 30 league from CrashTheNet.ca, the New York Rangers team I'm controlling, I'm 3-5-1 on the season, so quite happy about that. I'm actually contemplating getting rid of Mike Richards. He's a huge price tag. I've got him for a lot of years, and he's just not the guy I need up front. And I need to make some moves. Now, I say I need to make some moves, but really, is that going to help me in the long run? Because at the end of the day, it's the guy controlling the player. It's not the player itself. And we know how brutal I am. So, does it matter who I get in there? Not really. They could give me an all-star team, and I would be the same point as I am right now. The Cheap Ass Gamer League has me sitting with the Edmonton Oilers, and my record there is 3-9-1. Once again, 3 wins, 9 losses, and 1 tie. So 3 W's, but you do what you got to do there. Darksiders 2, another game that I have been playing this week, trying to chip away at that, putting in some little time here and there. Now, I'm 17 hours into this game, and I know I'm getting close to the end. Obviously, with those spoilers attached, I've moved on to dealing with the light and the dark and bringing together a certain object necessary to collect some souls, if you will. Now, I've really enjoyed the whole journey of this game. The combat's been really fun. I just finished a section where I was on Earth and they gave me somewhat of a gun. And it's not, you're in a third-person view, but it's no Gears of War. The shooting mechanics are decent, but it's not going to win any awards. But it was a nice diversion from always hack-and-slash gameplay. So I really enjoyed using that for that section of the game. It's definitely well worth the price. Pick that up if you can. It's a very decent game. Let's move on to some NHL news. We're going back to the lockout as it is day 18 of the lockout. The owners and players have been talking off and on. They're not talking about the main issues right now. What they are talking about are some of the minor pieces that are part of the 400-page document that is the new CBA. There are a lot of minor pieces, as you can imagine, in a 400-page document. Now, my question is, why did they wait until after September 15th deadline to discuss these minor issues, such as drug testing players, hotel room accommodations? From what I hear, the players do not want a bunk. They want their own room. Now, let me get this straight. They want the teams to pay for their hotel rooms, yet they don't want to pick up any of the costs, but they want half of the revenue. So basically, they just want to take but not pay out. They want all of the first-class experience and let somebody else pick up the tab. It's getting me a little frustrating. Speaking of that, I have a wonderful tweet that I had found came from one of the hockey players on a tirade that he went off on last Saturday. Now, this player, his name is Krys Barch. Krys Barch played for the Florida Panthers last year. And he went on to say a few things about the lockout, which was really quite disgusting. And it really paints the players in that picture of being spoiled and, not really happy with the way that their lives have gone. It's just too bad that they've been bussed everywhere, flown everywhere, fed everywhere, hotels paid for, equipment paid for, fans, girls, houses, cars, drinks, parties. They've had everything. Yet this gentleman goes on to say, Barch writes on his Twitter account, I'm no different than a truck driver, a farmer, or a line worker. Because I sacrificed my body and wonder how I would be supporting a growing family without a bi-weekly paycheck. Now, it's also clear that he's trying to draw some kind of distinction between being a fourth-line grinder and the stars in the game, but he's a decent player that's making more than $2 million a year. He goes on to say, I sit here with both my boys sleeping, my wife due with our third. My thoughts are racing on what I can conquer tomorrow to get our family ahead. I wonder if the owners of Boston, New York, and Washington, etc., have endured any of the injuries that I have or any other player has in the NHL endured. Still, they probably sit there smoking their same brand of cigar, sipping the same cognac, going on vacation to one of their 5 houses they own, while we sit here knowing they want to take 20% of our paychecks. 1/2 to 3/4 of my peers will have to work for the next 50 years of our lives. Congratulations to the lucky few that I've played with, who have made salaries that can choose to do whatever they want when they are done. But I have played with most who do not. So let's take a look at this. Mr. Barch earned $850,000 last year. $850,000. In the NHL, that's quite low. I'll give him that. He's not making the $7 million that Mike Richards is. He's not making the $12 million signing bonus that Zach Parise got. He's making $850,000. Think about this, even when the government takes half. He is collecting $425,000. His agent may get a portion. He's got to pay out a little bit. Even if he takes home $250,000 pure cash, what in the blue hell are you talking about having to work for 50 years? That is the most asinine quote I have ever read in my life. It gets me up to a point where I am absolutely boiling. Many of us live decent lives. We are the average class citizen. We live paycheck to paycheck. We pay our mortgage. We pay for our daughter's clothes, the food, the extracurricular activities, the vehicles we drive. That's paycheck to paycheck. When you come on and you state that $850,000 is not enough, that absolutely disgusts me. And the worst part is, brother, you signed for $2 million this year. That $850,000 was last year. So now you are termed a millionaire, and you're still pouting about it. That shit blows my mind. That guy can eat a dick. So, let's move on. As they're wiping out the preseason, there will be no preseason games, and the NHL has come out and said that has cost the league $100 million. $100 million from preseason games. So, NHL players, owners, it's 57-43 cut right now. So the players lost $57 million during preseason. The owners lost $43 million during preseason. How can you guys sit out and throw that money away? It doesn't make any sense. And then you add that a bunch of these players are going to Europe and playing for a fraction of the cost, yet they sit here with their lawyers and debate that they need more money. And they're going over to Europe and playing for less money. It's really starting to bug me. And we've got many more days before this ends. And they're going to start shaving off regular season games here week by week. The 82-game schedule can still go on. October 11th is puck drop for season start. They will need 7 days. If we look back at the 95 season when they cut short the season and started late, they need 7 days from signing this new CBA to puck drop. So if I do my calculations correct, if we want to start on October 11th, they need to sign tomorrow, October 4th. Can't see that happening. So as of tomorrow, I believe they're going to start shaving weeks off the season. Now, they could still go to an 82-game season. However, what is possible is they may extend the season end to, say, June or July, which is real smart. We'll see a Stanley Cup in August while people are camping. And then, after a month, they're going back to training camp to start in September. Makes a lot of sense to me. It's amazing how these million-dollar lawyers are butting heads so hard and playing with our emotions and our paychecks and the people that are really being affected. So let's move on to the NHL preview of the Southwest Division. What we've got lined up here for you, I'm going to go through all of the divisions. It looks like I'm going to have a lot of time to do it. There is 6 divisions in the NHL, 3 in the East, 3 in the West. Tonight we're talking about the Southwest Division. Guys that won the Southwest Division last year was the Florida Panthers, followed by the Washington Capitals. Those were the only 2 teams in the Southwest that made the playoffs last year. The Tampa Bay Lightning came in 3rd, followed by the Winnipeg Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, if you're not accustomed to the NHL at all, let me just throw this in here. The Winnipeg Jets sounds a little different than the Florida, Washington, Tampa Bay, Carolinas of the world, because it is. That was Atlanta's spot, and when Atlanta moved to Winnipeg, Winnipeg had to stay in that division until they actually do some kind of realignment. So Winnipeg will play in the Southwest until they do a realignment and bring Winnipeg over to one of the Western Conferences so they don't have to travel so much. Just another thing they've got to deal with the CBA. How wonderful. So the surprise in the NHL last season, to me, was the Florida Panthers, as Dave Talon, the GM of the Panthers, brought together a group of spare parts. Misfits, if you will. Players that could not find a spot or were expendable by their previous teams. Florida went from 72 points in 2010-11 to 94 points this last season here. It's their first playoff berth in 12 years, and the question is, was it just lightning in a bottle, or can they ride the wave to another division title? I'll give you my prediction after I go over some other information here. So, we'll talk about the Florida Panthers first. Players that they have brought in: Peter Mueller, George Peros, one of the smartest enforcers in the NHL, Casey Wellman, and Philip Kuba. So obviously Peter Mueller's been bounced around for many teams. George Peros is out there to make sure nobody messes with anybody. And Philip Kuba will help out on the defensive end. Leaving the team, Krys Barch, our friend that we just finished talking about, John Madden, Mikael Samuelsson, Marco Sturm, and Wojtek Wolski. Top performers for the Florida Panthers last year: Stephen Weiss was their leading point getter with Thomas Fleischmann, Chris Versteeg, Brian Campbell, the man that can't get too old, and Dmitry Kulikov. Brian Campbell is amazing. The guy won the Lady Byng last year, as he had single-digit penalty minutes and played over 30 minutes a game, which is ridiculous if you think about it. So he is definitely a good part of that team, too. And you know what? They brought him in because they needed to get to the cap floor. And look what he did for the team. Guys that you want to look out for next year for the Florida Panthers: Jonathan Huberdeau last year had his rookie season. He'll come back better. I believe that has learned a lot in the NHL and will be able to bring more to the game itself. Dmitry Kulikov looks like he's going to have a breakout year this year as well. And like I said, can they ride the Lightning and make it 2 in a row? We'll see what happens here. Next team on the list, the Washington Capitals. Washington finished 2nd in the division, 7th in the Eastern Conference. Good enough for a playoff spot. The Washington Capitals, players that left, or players that the Capitals brought in this year: Mike Ribeiro, Zach Hamill, Wojtek Wolski, Joey Crabb, Mac Clarkson, Ryan Stoa. So obviously the ones that you heard there, Mike Ribeiro being a huge part of that, and Wojtek Wolski moving to a divisional rivalry. Wojtek Wolski, just like Peter Mueller, has seen his fair share of teams in his short career. Let's see if he can do something with the Capitals and their firepower that they have. Leaving the Washington Capitals: Chris Bourque, Cody Eakin, Jeff Halper, Mike Knuble, Alexander Semin. That's huge. Thomas Vokoun and Dennis Weidman. Now, Thomas Vokoun was expendable after Braden Holtby came up and worked his playoff magic and did a very, very good job for the Washington Capitals. Let's see if Holtby can help that out this year. Top performers for the Washington Capitals: Nicholas Backstrom is the leading point getter. Alex Ovechkin, Mike Ribeiro, if he were to have played, would have moved in a third spot on that list. Brooks Schleich and Marcus Johansson. Now, top performers are people that you're going to need to keep your eye on. One of them is Adam Oates, not because he is a player, because he will be coaching his first year as an NHL coach. They brought him in last year after their coach went back to London from only spending a year there. So Adam Oates will be a rookie coach with the Washington Capitals. That guy, when he played for Edmonton, he played 1 year there. But the time that he spent there, from what I understand, he coached the centers of the Edmonton Oilers and became one of the better face-off teams in the just before the lockout era. He taught Jared Stoll how to take face-offs, which we can see now after the Stanley Cup last year with the LA Kings. He is one of the better face-off men in the league. So I believe Adam Oates may have a bit of an edge and help out some of the centermen on that team. And Braden Holtby, of course, I just talked about him. If this goaltender can step up and do what he did, then that team is going to be doing well. Now, losing Semin may be an issue, but from what I understand as well, listening to the experts, is that Semin is more of an individual player and not so much a team player. He played when he wanted to. He sat and hung out when he wanted to. The biggest question, I guess, with the Capitals, can Ovechkin get to 100 points? Can he come into form and be the elite player that we all know he is? Oviatt is one of the snipers that tenders are scared of. And last year, he didn't show it as well. I believe he got over 40 goals, but really when it comes down to it, he didn't get 100 points, and they need him to perform big time. Next on the list, the Tampa Bay Lightning. This team has confused me for the last 8 years. Now, they did win the Stanley Cup back in 2004. But when you sport players like Steven Stamkos, Martin St. Louis, Vinny Lecavalier, Ryan Malone, there's no reason why you can't win the games that you have. They have finished in the lower echelon more times than anyone else. They've had top picks. Obviously, Steven Stamkos going first overall. Victor Hedman going second overall a couple of years back. So let's just talk about the players that are in. They brought in Benoit Pouliot, Kyle Wilson, BJ Crombeen, Matt Carl, Sammy Salo, Andres Lindback, and Matt Taramina. People leaving: Caron, Clark, Commodore, Jervis, Ranger, and Rolson. Really, when you talk about Caron and Rolson, Rolson's getting up in age there, which is why Lindbach was brought in. I think Stevie Y has done a very good job this year bringing in players that they need. Tampa Bay needed to solidify their back end, and they did. Victor Hedman will be better this year on defense. Matt Carl, Sammy Salo coming in to help solidify that defensive core, and a decent tender. Now, Anders Lindback was a backup in Nashville, but he is a number one starter just looking for a spot to shine, and Tampa Bay has given him that opportunity. So, top performers last year: Steven Stamkos scoring 60 goals last year. He's a stud. Put the puck on his stick, and that guy can wire it. Marty St. Louis, Teddy Purcell, Vinny Lecavalier, and Ryan Malone. Lots of big names there. Now, what they need to look at for this next season, obviously, like I said, their back defensive end being solidified needs to step up and help. Now, the reason why I say that, last year they were 9th overall for goals for. They had a great season, goals for. However, goals against, they were 30th in the league. They were last in the league for goals against. You are not going to win many games when you're letting in that many goals. So what Yzerman did, bringing in the defenseman that he had and a new goaltender, I think that he's really done a good job with that team. Moving on, the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg welcomed into their fold Olli Jokinen, Alexei Ponikarovsky, Al Montoya, and Mark Dukanic. I don't believe Mark Dukanic will be playing there. Al Montoya will be backing up their goaltender. So, players leaving is Fair, Flood, Glass, Jones, Mason, Stapleton. Not a whole lot that they have to worry about there. Top performers for the Winnipeg Jets: Blake Wheeler, Olli Jokinen, his points if he was playing there, Andrew Ladd, the captain, Evander Kane, the man that just couldn't sign a contract, and Dustin Byfuglien, the largest man in the league. That guy comes in overweight every single year, and he will again this year. It's funny about this team, I think you really have to look at Evander Kane has almost worn out his welcome already, and he just barely signed a contract at the deadline. So can the Winnipeg Jets fans welcome him into the fold? Can he embrace the Winnipeg Jets as his team? Because right now there is a division, and I don't believe that they're like a boyfriend and girlfriend, knowing that the end is imminent and just going through the motions right now. Yes, he did sign a contract, but I can't see Evander Kane being with that team for very long at all. Bringing in Olli Jokinen, you know what? The man's getting up there in age. Can he be a top performer? The Flames brought him in a couple times. He really didn't help out a lot there, and now he's going to come to the Winnipeg Jets, a team that finished 11th in the conference, and I don't think he's going to be the man to help. So let's move on to the Carolina Hurricanes, the team that made the biggest splash. They brought in Jordan Staal, a trade that happened at the draft this year. Tim Wallace, Joey Corvo on defense, Marc-Andre Gregani, and Alexander Semin. So their offensive core has really increased there. Leaving the team for the Hurricanes, Brian Allen, Brian Dumoulin, Jocelyn Roy, Yaroslav Spacek, and Brandon Sutter. Of those players I just mentioned, they're all defensemen except for Brandon Sutter. Of course, Brandon was a part of that Jordan Staal trade during the draft. And Brandon Sutter is your classic third-line center. He's the one that will grind it up and down, knows his role, wins his draws, and doesn't let anybody get anywhere. Jordan Staal played as a third-line center in Pittsburgh. The reason why Jordan Staal was a third-line center in Pittsburgh is because he played behind the likes of Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, two of the better players in the league. So it's for Jordan Staal, it's good. He needed to get out of their shadow. He needed to get first-line minutes. He will do that with Carolina. Top performers for the Hurricanes this year: Eric Staal, Jeff Skinner, the young phenom, the Bieber of the league, Alexander Semin, if he were to be there, Jordan Staal, if he were to be there, and Jussi Jokinen. Jussi Jokinen is one of the shootout specialists of the league. Carolina Hurricanes need to look at Jeff Skinner having another great season. He followed up his Rookie of the Year campaign last year with a very stellar, solid season, second in scoring on the team. Bringing the Stahls together, of course, Jordan Staal, Eric Staal, that is going to be very interesting to see if they're even going to be on the same line, if it's going to be separated. We'll see what happens when the league finally starts. And then Semin. They really took a chance on Semin. They only gave him a one-year contract, but like I said before, he's a gamble. It's a one-year contract. We'll see what happens. If he does something great, awesome. If not, we'll cut. So they need to be better on the back end, and I think that really comes down to it. With Cam Ward in the net, they have a potential to do that, and Joey Corvo will help out in the defensive area. So that finishes off my Southwest Division preview. This division traditionally has been the weakest division in the Eastern Conference. Even though the last of the Stanley Cups that have been won in the East over the last decade, two of them came from this division, one in Tampa Bay in 2004 and one in Carolina in 2006. Both of those won against Alberta teams. Calgary in 2004, Edmonton in 2006. That was a very difficult series to watch. Painful. The Southwest Division also boasts some of the best offensive players in the NHL. I went over these guys, players such as Lecavalier, Stamkos, St. Louis, the Stahl brothers, Eric and Jordan, Alexander Semin, Ovechkin, Backstrom. There's a lot of firepower in this division. And also some of the most exciting future stars coming up, as in Kane, Skinner, and the likes. Last year, we know the Florida Panthers rose to the top of the division for the first time since their Stanley Cup appearance back in '96. This year, they will be in for some serious competition as the other four teams have made major moves to better their team for the 2012-2013 campaign. Tampa Bay has obviously solidified their back end. Carolina has reunited the Stahl brothers and added 7 for more firepower up front. Washington replaced 7 with Mike Ribeiro, which should help Ovechkin in the point column. And Winnipeg brought in Olli Jokinen to help out the Jets move from the bottom of the division, which they will stay. So my predictions for the Southwest Division: Carolina will win the division. Florida will come in second, Washington third, Tampa Bay fourth, and Winnipeg will follow that up. So let's move on and talk about the Major League Baseball real quick. I want to go over playoff matches that we have set up here. So the playoffs finished up. The postseason is starting on Friday. Regular season ended today. All games were finished. The only games that had any implication was the Texas Ranger Oakland A's game this afternoon. Texas went out to a 5-1 early lead in the second inning, only to see the A's rattle off 11 straight runs to win the game 12-5. So that means the Texas Rangers will play the wild card game against the Baltimore Orioles on Friday night. The winner of that will play the New York Yankees in one of the ALDS games, and the Oakland A's will play the Detroit Tigers in the second of the ALDS. On the national side of things, the Braves from Atlanta will be playing the St. Louis Cardinals for the wild card game. Winner of that will take on the Montreal Expos. The Washington Nationals. So the Washington Nationals had a great season, finished first in the National League. So they took on the first spot and will play the winner of the wild card. The second of the NLDS, on the other side, the Cincinnati Reds will take on the San Francisco Giants. One thing before I move on that I want to bring up very quickly is the payrolls of the teams that are in the finals. So the postseason starts on Friday. Right now, of the 2 wildcard teams, of course, we've got 10 teams total. We've got the Yankees, who are the first in salaries with $197 million. That's the team payroll. As disgusting as that is. Average salary is damn near $6.2 million. Also, you've got the Detroit Tigers coming in 5th at 132. The Texas Rangers 6th at 120. San Francisco Giants 8th at 117. St. Louis Cardinals 9th at 110. So of the 10 teams, 5 of those are in the top 10 in largest payrolls. Obviously, when you look at the Cardinals at $110 million and the Yankees at $197 million, you know, the Yankees down here have double the payroll as the Cardinals. This is where it starts to get very funny. Down at 16th, the Atlanta Braves, $83 million. Cincinnati Reds at $17, $82 million. Baltimore Orioles, $19, $81 million. And the Washington Nationals, who finished first in the National League at $81 million as well. That's only 9 teams. We are missing 1 team. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to jump on a bandwagon, jump on this one. This team has $55 million in payroll. The Oakland Athletics, the 29th lowest payroll, has been phenomenal. Jump on that team. Give your support to them. Let's see them do what they can do. Their last World Series championship was in '89. Get a chance, go watch Moneyball based off the 2002 season. They didn't win the World Series then, but they did make it after the likes of Johnny Damon and Jason Giambi left the team to go to the New Yorks and Bostons of the world. So that's just my take. We'll talk more about that in the future. Some gaming news to talk about here real quick. Resident Evil 6 came out yesterday. Now, I've had some great memories with the Resident Evil franchise. Obviously, the franchise being on the major consoles, was it the PlayStation or the Xbox. Two of them are very memorable. The one that I first came in with and fell in love with the series was the second Resident Evil, but my favorite was number 4. I really enjoyed that. I played that 4 times, and I don't play a game over, but I played Resident Evil 4 times on my PS2, and that actually was probably the last game that I played on my PS2. So that's quite interesting there. It has been getting some bad reviews by the quote-unquote experts, but I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter they're showing me a different attitude on that, and I will be picking this up, but it won't be until the new year. Future gaming for this week, NHL 13, as always. That's one of those games that will be stuck in the future gaming section all year long. Borderlands 2, as I said last week, I hope to get some playtime with that. It all depends on Darksiders 2 and how much longer this game is going to take me. I need to start getting some time in with Borderlands 2 because as of October ends, Assassin's Creed comes out, and then Modern Warfare Black Ops 2 comes out, and we all know how much of a first-person shooter I am. As of Christmas, it's probably going to be Blops 2, NHL 13 taking up majority of my playing time. Shoutouts for tonight, CrashTheNet.ca, an amazing website made by an amazing man, talking about hockey, virtual and real. Jump on there, great discussions with some great people. NoobTube.com, gaming website, if you need any information on games upcoming or past. Great reviews, some phenomenal people, and some very spectacular information. We've got some amazing camaraderie, and if you need anything, check them out for all of your gaming questions. OilersNation.com, part of the Nation Network. Go there if you need to check out any Canadian hockey information on the Nation Network, specific to Oiler Nation for all of your Oiler articles. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude tonight's podcast. Remember to leave a review. Follow me on Twitter at GeeksnJocks. Visit the website at GeeksnJocks.ca. We'd like to thank you all for downloading the podcast. Have a great week. And this is Captain Obvious. My glass is empty. Good night.